Hello and welcome to the Money Charts channel. My name is Derek, and all bets is within your own risk and your own reward. There's nothing to do with trading here. And this chart shown, well, I guess on the Money Charts channel, so I can show a non-chart related video, yet show a chart. This is the plus minus for my fantasy hockey showdowns for the current season. I figure if this can get to 10,000 by the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, that I'll be up over $10,000 in playing the game. And I can write my book, and I will, I guess, in how I won $10,000, and I knew I was going to in fantasy hockey, something like that. But we'll wait till the end of the season. I'm learning a lot on this in today's game, and today was my first $5 game. I cashed 10 back on that. And thus my research was, well, let's look at the difference between the $5 and 25-cent game and the $5 game based on the statistics that I got, which I get from a spreadsheet and the results. Looks very favorable. But I'm not going to talk about that one. I'm going to talk about NFL football. I have a theory that this is a very, very profitable game, and I'm going to explain my theory in this video. Now, how a showdown works is you pick a captain whom will cost you 50% more, but will also accrue you 50% more points. So 10,000 costs 15,000, and you get 15 points instead of 10. And then you do that with 5 other players for the game. There's quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight end, running backs, team defenses, as well as a kicker. And with at least one player from at least each team that you must have. Now, Sunday night is the Minnesota Vikings against the Dallas Cowboys. And Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, there's big games. And what I look for is the prize pool divided by first place to be a small ratio. In this case, it's between 4 and 5. 800 divided by a first place of 200,000 would be 4, and 1,000,000 divided by 200 would be 5. If the number is 20, it's not that amazing. It's the fact it's about as high as I would take, and I don't like 20. 15 is playable. 10 is good. 12, 8, anything, again, the lower the better. And this is like a poker field payout, like a poker tournament. So we have a field of 888,000 888,000 people. 104,000 people, rather, and 21,000 people get paid. So about 20% of the field is a payout. So it's heavy payout, it's heavy top field prize, or it's heavy for like first place 200,000, that's huge. Second place 100, third place 60,000. Now, unique lineups are very, very important. We'll get to the next slide to talk about that in a bit. But if you share your lineup with two people, with one other person, and you win, then you and the other player would both win, but both get half of first place and half of second. So you get half of 300,000, you get 150,000. So you're getting a good prize still, but definitely a fraction of first. And the more people that you share with, well, the smaller that fraction will become. Now, before going on to the next slide, I want to talk about 150 entries max, which means my goal, and I can't do this right now, is to be able to play 150 entries, which would cost $1,500. And there's 3 games a week. It would be a $4,500 balance I would need to start the week off. Although, technically speaking, when you put your first $1,500 in, you got almost no chance of getting it. You're going to get something back. But if it's $1,500 a week, you might only get 2, 3 or 400 back when you are done on a bad day. But in order for me to do this, risk-reward management is always job number 1. And I would have to think that if it's going to be $1,500 a week, I definitely need a bankroll, 10, 15,000 to start. And I'd almost have to be a millionaire to do it. So if the crypto game can work out by the start of next football season, I'll be putting in 150 lineups in. Even if I get to my 10,000 goal, I might play a few games, but that'd be about it. But I'd like to put in 150 ones, 150 different lineups, and see how it goes. Because my goal is to try to win long term, and to win one of these damn things, basically, as well. And when you're talking about a field of 100,000 people, it ain't easy to do. Okay, time for the next slide. But it isn't 100,000 because there's only going to be about 40, 50,000 or so different lineups. So it's actually interesting how when you think about more what the chances. So game theory, yes, theory. And my theory is this is a profitable long-term game that needs many lineups or volumes to be a winner. And an expected short-term result lower, question mark. Okay, well, why short-term result lower? Well, if you only play about 100, 200, 300, 500, 600, 800,000 lineups, then maybe, I mean, it's going to be hard to win one of those damn things. And if you don't win, you don't get a first, second, third type prize payout. Even though you could probably be down. I mean, big difference. My hockey game, and it's it's not turning into theory anymore. It's almost turning into fact that it's going to be a huge game. It's almost theory to me that hockey is going to be over a 20% ROI. It's not theory that it's profitable after the stuff I figured out for that. But in this one here, the lineup must be unique. There is no doubt about it. When I play mine and I check, I sometimes will have 5-6 shares in games this size, 100,000 player people, 80,000 people player games. I haven't played a $10 game because it hasn't been worth it for me to do yet. But the highest but yeah, when I check it out, a lot of times I am unique, or one other person shares it with me isn't that common too. Because if people are doing this, if other people are doing what I'm doing, and I know there is, then the odds are, okay, did they happen to match one of mine? Maybe, maybe not, kind of deal. But if they're thinking on the same lines, then they just might do so. One of the games I like to play too is try to get, maybe to see, you could just write down a piece of paper if you wish. Try to guess what the highest lineup is going to be. We'll get into that one of the next future slides. So the second one, highest possible probable odds. Crazy meter be right. Crazy meter be right. What do I mean by that? Well, if it's off, either think of a meter number between 0 and 100. 100 meaning you're like total craziness. 0 meaning you are so like the opposite of it. Well, if that meter is anywhere near 0 or to 100, it ain't right. Meaning 0. This is where you got like lineups that are going to be shared by dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And my theory on that is that it's not going to win in these games. The rate to these games is very, very high. In fact, let me go back to the first slide because I missed that subject. With a $10 buy-in, that means that $104,000 is going to be put into the game. And that's like close to 20% rake. That is crazy. I do not support that, but I do support probable odds, and if I have it on my favor, I'm going to take it. So back to this again. Now the crazy meter to 100, meaning you're going, I mean, you're going to, not only are you definitely going to be unique with the lineup, but come on, there's like just, that is going too far putting in, like you don't have to go with whatever you might be doing. The odds are so extremely unlikely that someone would have your lineup, but the odds are so unlikely that you're going to win as well, too. So you have to be a little, like have that meter near 70, 80 kind of deal, different ways. And one of the easiest ways of having yourself unique is reduce, you have 50,000 of a box score to use. Well, don't use all of it. Keep 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 off the table. There was one situation in which I found a game where Keenan Allen, a winning lineup was shared by about 20 people. And it had Keenan Allen of the San Diego Chargers in it. Now what I realized was was if you took Keenan Allen out of the lineup and put in a third-ranked receiver, a WR3 from that team, you would have won, but nobody did that. Nobody put in the perfect lineup, which would have had Keenan Allen out and another receiver who was a few thousand cheaper in. The next one is look at previous box NFL. Why do I have two boxes? Okay, that's a spelling mistake. I didn't reread that before accepting it. Look at previous NFL box scores. And that's where you can see stuff. Well, who was the best player? Who had the most points? What you're going to find out is that wide receivers do very, very well. Quarterbacks and running backs will hold their own, but receivers and tight ends count as receivers too. They do well. Defenses will get a few wins here and there, and kickers hardly ever at all. And then you look at previous DraftKings box scores. That's by looking at the CSV file you get. We'll talk about that very soon. So parlay of things. Parlay meaning if one thing happens, then something else is very likely or unlikely to happen, and you play on that. So for defense, as example, that's the easiest one right there. If your defense is captain, which means they get more points than any player on the game, so they're probably going to get a lot of sacks, but touchdowns. Another one is the other players don't get 35, 40 fantasy points, so no one has a big game. These are the parlays. So on running backs, if a defensive one team is going to do well, then most likely they're going to control the game and win it well. So they're going to run the ball effectively too. So playing the running backs on that same defense is probably a good idea. But it's also a very good idea not to play any running backs on the other team, with the exception of maybe a catching one that a quarterback would throw to when the team is behind in the second half. Other than that kind of running back, you don't want to play anyone on the other team. Quarterbacks, you most certainly do not want to play the opposing team's quarterback. And the kicker, well, the opposing team might have to settle for field goals, and if their points are loud or low because of it. And I was watching the game the other night, and I was thinking when it occurred, okay, defense, I was third down and like whatever, and the sack comes in, quarterback gets sacked for 4th and long, the field goal unit comes out. I'm thinking, yeah, of course. The sack comes in, the defense does well, and that's going to force field goals, so I'm going to play the opposing kicker on the other team. Second one, double running back wins for one team. Sometimes both guys just go off big. And sometimes because it's a blowout that this backup running back gets a lot of playing time in the last 20 minutes of the 60-minute game time. And by plugging them both in, that can sometimes help well. Now, as far as captains, I don't like to play running backs much at all at captainship, but I still got work to do in researching, which will, when you look at the box scores of the DraftKings, I got to look more at running back captaincies and which combinations are unique. Furthermore, ultimate contrary for studs owned way too much. What's the else? Well, have you ever seen games where players just are way off that should be doing good? Guys like the Christian McCaffreys when he has a bad game. The guys that always go off every single week. Well, if they don't go off, meaning they either have a bad game or they get injured, how is the box score probably going to be, which is the else? And when you're doing 150 lineups, I'm going to play 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of my lineups for start players to not do so well, or maybe more. And then simulate your own box scores for realistic styles. Put in how many yards, catches it would be. Well, if this player goes off, what would be a realistic way? And sometimes you'd be like, oh my goodness, my perfect lineup is leaving 8,100 off. And well, you know what? That's one you might want to put in as one of your lineups. So now let's talk about captain ownerships on a spreadsheet. When you're on DraftKings and you look at the game, they'll show you the percentage on which players are owned. But they're not going to tell you the percentage they are owned as captain. To do this, you download the CSV game file that you see on the DraftKings page. When that spreadsheet comes up, copy the lineup row into Notepad, where all the players are on. And then when you're on Notepad, you'll see the captain section. So highlight the spaces in the CPT part and replace it with a comma. And then paste that into a spreadsheet. You'll get two different rows. One row which will have everybody else, and the second row with just the captains. You can delete the first row for now, and we only want the captains. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask an if question if the next row is different, and then place a counter for the same thing. So I'll put the formulas in the next screenshot. But you're asking, okay, is there a new guy on the list? Because you're going to maybe get like 500 or 1,000 of one particular player. If there's 100,000 lineups, then the top guy could be picked as captain 20,000 times. And the computer will automatically check. And then what would happen is you could easily copy and paste. Anyway, I'll show you the formula because it's easier to show you than to explain it. And the formula would be something like this. So if what you end up getting is a whole bunch of, like, say, for example, in alphabetical order, Andrew Jones or whatever. Say he's played 107 times. Well, what would happen is your counter would keep on counting it down, and you would see 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106. And then the next player would come up and would reset the counter for you. So it doesn't take long at all. But by doing such, you would be able to first find out the percentage of each owner of each player. And you're going to find out that quarterbacks and running backs are heavily owned. So you really want to be playing wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses. Now with quarterbacks and running backs, I actually liked Patrick Mahomes in a previous game against the New England Patriots. And it worked out really well for me. I had a chance to have a big payout had a couple of things went a different way. But it was, how do I put him in? And I did an okay job with my Patrick Mahomes captain lineups and being relatively unique. But when you're putting a quarterback and star running back in, anyone that's going to be high owned, you're going to have to be very, very, your crazy scale will have to be really high. When you have a really weak captain in, someone who's not going to be his own too often, you don't have to be as crazy with the rest of your five if you look at it that way as well. So one way of doing it is when you go to a spreadsheet and you sort, well, for this in here, when you're just trying to find how many lineups are unique, this is a really cool thing to do. So you take the original file again as you have it. And so you have all of the lineups again. Now in this one here, you're just going to take it as it is. You don't need to change anything. You paste it onto your spreadsheet and you sort it by that. That's the column that you're using. And you put all that in column A. You sort it. You make sure it's sorted and everything. And then what it's going to do is it's going to, sort of like how you would see the ownership of every player. Well, now what's going to happen is you're going to get all the different lineups in. Well, now what you can do is you can take a look at, say I want to look at ownership of this particular quarterback. Say for the Sunday night game, say Dak Prescott as an example. So I want to take a look at all the lineups where Dak Prescott was captain. So you get those ones in first. And then you take a look at the ones with them, and then you see, okay, which of the ones with them were owned by 1, 2, 3, 4 people. And of those, which ones were realistic? We're like, oh my goodness, that was a good lineup. What did that person do? And that's a type of style you're going to need to use moving forward. That'll give you the idea of unique lineups that work. Now, for myself, 98% of the time and what I'm doing right now, I'm just playing around with it. I'm playing the 10-cent game 20 lineup max. So I'm putting 20 lineups in every time just for fun. $2. It's like, yeah, man, whatever. It's really, because again, this is game theory for me right now. And if the theory passes this year, then I'm going to test, of course, the larger game next year. But mainly I pick those wide receivers, the tight ends, and the defenses. And I'm pretty good at getting my lineup's unique. So therefore, what I need to do is practice on quarterbacks and running backs, even though I believe they're not good ones to go with. Sometimes, I mean, they're going to get decent scores as well. And if I'm going to be putting in 150 lineups, then I'm going to want to do pretty good. See, I knew last night with the previous game, which was the Oakland Raiders taking on the other team, that the running backs went off. Who were they playing against? Los Angeles Chargers. I didn't even watch the game. And from that, because I realized my results sucked, I'm like, okay, I guess the running backs had the game, because I had every single wide receiver that was going to play, every single tight end, both the defenses in play. With 20 lineups, I can put a little bit in. With 150, I'd be able to put in a lot more. Alrighty then. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, another thing, if this happens, I'll do that. Yeah, if I can get to 10,000 units, which is US dollars, in hockey, I'll write the book. If this video can get 1,000 likes, then I'll do a live stream. Now, it also must accompany at least 150 revenue dollars for me to be able to pay for things I need to get it done. But as long as that comes through, and if it gets 25,000 likes, then maybe I'll do a 10 LITECOIN giveaway. But then again, I'm also going to need 1,000 in revenue from ads to do it. But if that happens, I mean, well, I can't believe how many people will watch the video, because to get that many likes, I've never ever gotten that many likes in the video before. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.